I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Carrabelle City Commission. It's September 8th, 2016 at 6 p.m. And would Commissioner Allen please say the invocation, and then we'll say the pledge of allegiance to the flag. Thank you.
Father in heaven, we're so grateful that we have this opportunity to come tonight as concerned citizens for this wonderful city that we live in. We ask you to be with us in our judgments and wisdom and understanding. I do that which would be proper in your sight and what would be best for the future citizens of our city. We ask you to be with our country and the turmoil that we're facing there. We trust that you rule in the kingdoms of men as the prophets of old taught. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first thing I need agenda is to approve the consent agenda with the August 4th minutes and the attorney's invoices. Did everyone have an opportunity to review those two items?
Move to approve.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Allen. May I have a second?
A second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Walden. Any more discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Is there any public comment? Public comment, please. All right, there being no public comment, I'll call for Commissioners' reports. Commissioner Walden?
I have none tonight.
All right, and Commissioner
I
Massey?
have none.
And Commissioner Allen?
Did meet this week with the EOC in preparation for the storm that was approaching. Fortunately, we got it turned away from us a little bit and put it in somebody else's lap. But we, when we do a program like that, we go through all of the procedures of contact and emergency preparations, places you can go if you have to evacuate, what you can take, what you can't take. And we also send out advisory for people to have a go bag that would have their medical supplies and maybe some water and things like that as they have to leave. But very fortunately, we didn't have to use it that anyway here, but we do feel sorry for our friends to the east. We usually have a place up to evacuate. In this case here, they came to our house. So they did have electricity for about 4 days. So we were very fortunate that we did as well as we did. And but it was a good exercise for our EOC to give a practice run with a real thing. And then of course the season's not over, so it is what they prepared. We did sign, Cameron and I went over the first day and signed up about 50 re-entry passes. So if you don't have one of those, you can get them through the EOC. If you have to evacuate, you can't get back into the county unless you have that on your car to verify that you're not going down the distant devil into somebody's house. That's all I have.
Do you by any chance know what time it was changed from a tropical storm to a hurricane? What time of day on Thursday that was?
Somewhere around 8 or 9 o'clock, they began to talk about hurricane. Yeah. They were finding 80-mile-an-hour winds up on the top, but not down low. And the trick is they have to be sustained, you know, instead of just a gust or two.
Okay. Thank you.
And of course, we had our great crack weather people. Jim Cantori was here, and they're going to put a marker down there where he stood and listened to the frogs. I think I've heard that.
Okay. All right.
Don't, no, that's not true.
Okay, well, thank you, Commissioner Allen. And I guess I'm going to make up for all of the others because I have a detailed report here regarding our air conditioning system at McKissick Beach, the Anthony Diane vessel there, the FWC Derelict vessel grant program, and the sailboats that broke loose during the storm. But first, I want to thank the Carrabelle Police Department and the Water and Sewer Department, the Streets and Roads Department, and the Fire Department for their preparations and standing by on call during a hurricane. No buildings, we had no buildings or suffered any structural damage, thank goodness, in Carrabelle, and no major trees were down, and no power outages, but there were a few small incidences and here and there, and they were responded to quickly and efficiently, and I appreciate the good work and good response, and I was just thanking the Streets and Roads Department, Mr. Massey, so thank y'all. I told you last month I would report to you the GUSC Heating and Air worked on blowers last month, and that cost $510 in addition to the regular monthly maintenance. Then on Wednesday, on the 31st, the air conditioner pump system crashed completely, and GUSC made the repairs on Labor Day. We don't have the bill yet, but we were out of air conditioning for quite a while, and the folks at Camp Gordon Johnston Museum have expressed major concerns and complaints about the lack of air conditioning over this past Labor Day weekend when they were open for business for their museum. And I have suggested that their rent be waived for the month of October, but I just wanted to ask the commissioners what you think about that. It's about, what is it, $430, $450 a month? It's about $450 a month. And they're diligently working, that board of directors, on getting their new construction underway for their new museum. And we hope we can keep them heated for the winter. So how do y'all feel about waiving their rent for the month of October, since they've been without air conditioning several times this summer?
I'm in favor.
Okay.
Raising the rent or lowering the rent?
Just waiving the,
Waive,
yes,
not raising.
yes, waiving, don't charge them till,
That makes a big difference.
yes, 1 month, October.
I would even favor that.
It could be, just a kindness gesture.
Can we make a motion for that? What we can.
I make the motion we waive their rent for October. I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Walden and a second by Commissioner Mathis to waive Camp Gordon Johnston's rent for 1 month of October. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then that carries. All right, thank you. I wasn't exactly looking for a motion, but we've got it, and we know we can do it now. On August the 18th, the Commissioners Walden and Commissioner Allen and we met individually with Ms. Cheryl McCall, Chief of the Bureau of Public Land Administration. She's with the Division of State Lands, and then with Mr. Joseph Wilson, Program Administrator of the Bureau of Environmental Services with the Division of State Lands. And I discussed with them the progress that's being made on the management plan for McKissick Beach, of which very little progress is being made. And but they both understood that the city has major pressing financial obligations within the city limits, like the new City Hall building that we're trying to work out here, and infrastructure repairs. And they understood that the Waterfront Partnership was to oversee development of the management plan, but that they understood the Waterfront Partnership lacks resources for expertise in this area to follow through with developing the management plan. And they also understood that without significantly raising the city's millage rate, that there would not be funds to complete the infrastructure in the draft management plan. And we discussed the fact that the Florida Forest Service has expressed an interest in assuming McKissick Beach lease and management. So I haven't heard anything else from them. I guess we're waiting on some final decision from the Forest Service. But on that same day, and Courtney met with me, with those folks, I informed them about the sunken Anthony Diane and the Miss Carrabelle that's underneath the Anthony Diane, and the fact that there are multiple liens on the property, and I asked about the status of the submerged land lease at that location. I've had several communications with Mrs. McCall since then. I've sent her the Sonola property title search that the CRA had done earlier this year. Ms. McCall has reported to Courtney and I that she's put a good bit of time into researching the derelict vessel issue, and she herself, and this is the bureau chief with the Division of State Lands, she reported that the likelihood of securing funds to remove the Anthony Diane through the FWC derelict vessel program is limited. She explained that while the vessel is abandoned, it's not impeding navigation. Either Anthony Diane and Miss Carrabelle, they're not impeding navigation, and they're not in danger of breaking loose at this time. And she has also conducted a research concerning the status of the submerged land lease there, that's Sonoma property, with the state of Florida. And she's found that the lease has not been in compliance since 2010. She says that the Pensacola regulatory staff works this area of the state, and she'll let us know what they find out about the owners as they move forward on violations. So in Pensacola, the Division of State Lands regulatory staff is working on that submerged land lease. Then on August the 22nd, I learned that Franklin County had assembled a list of derelict vessels for the FWC derelict vessel program, the grant program. And in the county, on that list, they had included vessels within Franklin County and in Apalachicola, but they had no vessels on the Carrabelle River included in that list. So I immediately contacted Mark Currington. He's handling putting together that list. He's the county planner. And he confirmed that the county's list included only vessels from Franklin County and Apalachicola. Mr. Currington also confirmed that there were no vessels in the Carrabelle River included because the FWC does not have vessels in the Carrabelle River listed as derelict. So, Mr. Currington explained that the FWC must follow certain rules to designate a vessel as derelict, and the FWC grant funds for this derelict vessel removal can be used only to remove vessels that have been designated derelict by the FWC. Mr. Currington told me that the city should prepare a list of vessels for the FWC to investigate as soon as possible, so the county can include these vessels on their list for the contractor to provide a removal estimate. So with Courtney's approval, I asked Mr. Rob Powis to help compiling a list of potential derelict vessels, which he did that same day because he's working on our waterfront a little bit and helping us with that. And the list was approved by Courtney, and Mr. Powis sent it on to Mr. Currington, and this is the list of vessels that I just wanted y'all to have that so you know, and you can pass that on to the Waterfront Partnership. We'll let you have one for the record. He included, let me find my place, 3 vessels. It included the Anthony Diane, Miss Carrabelle, and then the sailboat that's up against the piling under the Tilly Miller Bridge. And he included with his information that he sent to Mr. Currington, aerial views, locations pinpointed, photos of each location, and a complete physical description of each vessel and the GPS location. Mr. Currington has forwarded that list to Captain Wood of the FWC, but Mr. Currington wrote back to me saying it appears, once again, the Anthony Diane would not qualify as a derelict vessel because it's tied to the dock. I asked Mr. Currington to please include all 3 vessels on the county's list to be estimated for removal anyway. I had to really ask him, please do this. Just let the contractor please estimate these removals. This way the county will have a complete list of vessels that need to be removed with a total cost estimate that include all the vessels in the county that need removing, including the vessels in our river here. Mr. Currington agreed to add the 3 named vessels that we have here on the list of vessels as pending vessels. And he'll send that on to he'll put that on the contractor's list for the contractors to estimate. But he said that if the FWC does designate the pending vessels as derelict, the county will then include them on their derelict vessel grant program request. But if they're not designated as derelict, they won't be included on that request. Now, he did write to me and he said if there are any vessels in the river, Carrabelle River, that are not able to be removed or throughout Franklin County with the FWC grant program, that Franklin County plans to include them as a Restore Act project and remove them at some time in the future. I sit on the Restore Act Council, and we're beginning to work on a multi-year implementation plan, which is going to take a year, and after that, they'll start working on projects. So this would be sometime in the future. The county did advertise for the sealed bids to any person interested in removing derelict vessels in Franklin County. It was in last week's newspaper. On August 25th, Rob Powers reported to me he had a phone conversation with Captain Wood of the FWC on that same day. Captain Wood explained to Mr. Powers that the Anthony Diane is not and will not be designated as a derelict vessel because it is tied to the dock. Let's say it all together. It's tied to the dock. It's amazing. Also, the FWC, he said that Mr. Woods, Captain Woods said the FWC does not know if there's a dock lease agreement between the owner of the Anthony Diane and the dock owner. The FWC needs documentation that no lease agreement exists in order to just cite the boat. And this will take some research since the dock owner is not clearly defined, and that research is being conducted by the Chief of Public Land Administration, as I reported earlier. Captain Wood also explained to Mr. Powers on that phone call, Ms. Carrabelle causes confusion, and it cannot be approached for removal because parts removed could be confused with Anthony Diane parts. Captain Wood said, for example, if a crankcase was pulled out, the owner of the Anthony Diane could claim the crankcase belonged to him and could claim reimbursement for removal of the part. Captain Wood did tell Mr. Powers the sailboat under the Tilly Miller Bridge is a perfect example of a derelict vessel, and the FWC will reopen that case. On September the 5th, Mr. Powers also spoke with U.S. Coast Guard Officer Hendricks. The officer, this is the same officer that Tony Jackson, the owner of the Anthony Diane, has been in contact with. Officer Hendricks told Mr. Powers that under no circumstances will the United States Coast Guard be removing the Anthony Diane. The United States Coast Guard did inspect the Anthony Diane, and they have certified the vessel to be clean from an environmental perspective, and that in its present state it is not a navigational hazard. Meanwhile, Hurricane Hermine drove the two sailboats that are permanently and perpetually anchored in the middle of the Carrabelle River to the city's dock facility and seawall at the Marine Street boat ramp. And this matter was addressed immediately by myself and Friday morning after the storm, and then Commissioner Massey alerted me to it, or William Massey. And I alerted immediately the city administrator, the city attorney, and Chief Huntings, who communicated immediately with Captain Wood, and that was good work, and I do appreciate that very much, sir. They came out and worked within an hour with the Carrabelle Police Department. They were there and recorded the boat, those two sailboats, as a boating accident, and after 5 days the vessels could be tagged as derelict. But on Sunday evening the vessels were righted by a commercial shrimp boat, tied off to the Coast Guard dock, owned by the city, and on Monday the vessels were returned to the middle of the Carrabelle River, where they once again anchored, I guess, permanently. So during this accident, there was plenty of concern by the public regarding safety and environmental hazards, and the vessels would become concerned that they'd become permanently sunk at the Marine Street boat ramp because one vessel was listing sharply. So it's a good thing they were able to be righted. But this is the second time the two sailboats have broken loose in the past 6 months, and there still remains a concern the vessels will once again break loose and cause some major damage to private and public property. And finally, I want to let you, the board and the public know that I've communicated with the grant writer Fred Fox regarding completing a FERDAP grant application for upgrades to Tilly Miller Park. And we'll begin working on that application, and we'll address an ordinance at the October meeting regarding the same issue. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening to me. I just wanted to clear the air about this derelict vessel program and the Anthony Diane. If y'all want copies of that report, you're welcome to have it. All right. So we'll move on to Inovia, Miss Molly, and she'll need a microphone. She has one. Thank you.
Good evening. Got a quick summary for you all. Spoke to Fred Fox about the CDBG grant for Avenue B. DEO has not awarded any projects yet. They are still going through their walkthroughs in the neighborhood revitalization category, which is causing some delay. And Mr. Fox said that he is not aware of any issues with our application. So far we're in the clear. We're just waiting on DEO to finish up all their applications before they can formally award the grant. The Fifth Avenue depression, there were some issues a while back with the little dip in the road, and they didn't do some sodding, so we had them come back and repair that and sod it, and drove by there this afternoon and it looked okay, so we'll continue get them paid once they submit a pay request. For the FDOT Small Communities Outreach Municipality Grant, they thought that they were going to have their funding announcements by August, but those are again delayed. I talked to Lorraine Moyle, and she has confirmed yesterday that they have still not been awarded, and she'll let me know as soon as she anticipates a award date. The 4th Street pedestrian crossing. DOT has still not given us our permit. I've talked to Michelle Williams, who was out for a few months for knee surgery. He is now back. So hopefully, I talked to him last week and again today, and he has assured me that he's looking into it and he will make sure that it gets to us. So hopefully we can pry that out of DOT's hands. The Sands Park improvement, we are working to finalize specifications for the picnic and playground equipment, kind of looking at some different options that fall within our budget, and we plan on advertising that job for bid at the end of September. The City Hall planning study, we have developed a scope that includes preliminary planning, site alternative evaluation, concept design, cost analysis. The architect is currently putting his scope of work together, and we set up a meeting with Mayor LaPaz and Courtney next week to go over to nail down our program to make sure we know exactly the square footages, the people we want in there, the different departments, to kind of narrow down and review our scope and make sure that everything's good before we go hard in the weeds on design. For the Water Management District grant, Jim met with Paul Thorpe yesterday, and in a strange twist, they have decided that they want to fund the lighthouse project.
Instead of ho-hum?
Yeah. And so they are all for the lighthouse project. The full grant amount won't cover the full project, but they said if we submit CBER requests that they will fully support them and back them. So that is...
Is that for water or sewer? Or
water right now. So that's kind of a new twist, and
How long will that money be available?
I am not quite sure. I'll have to get with Jim and see, but definitely a good thing since we've wanted that lighthouse project for quite a while.
Do we want them to submit a secret request?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then we may ask you to give us some input. We're going to be talking about the City Hall
Okay.
later.
All right, great.
May ask for some input there.
Okay. Any
And
questions?
if any of you commissioners want to have input on that, please talk with Courtney during the week on that meeting that we have next week. Does anyone have questions for Ms. Molly? Okay, good night.
Well, thank you.
All right. Waterfront Partnership, Ms. Tamara.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you all got a copy of our report, and I did want to apologize for the typographical errors that were in it. There is also an item who, like a moving target, has continued to change, and I think the mayor just clarified when I did this report. I had spoken to Tony Jackson, and he was unaware that the Anthony Diane was not going to qualify for some of the removals. But he did say to me at that time, because I said, well, what if they don't do it? And he said, well, whoever can do it can have the salvage rights. Now, it occurs to me that at some point, if that might happen, and someone might want to salvage it, we have to get something in writing. And we've been working with Mr. Powis and the CRA about all that. So my job is just to check with him and see what he does not intend to salvage it himself.
Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Jackson does not intend to salvage. He said he doesn't have the money to salvage it. But he is willing to have someone else salvage it for salvage rights. And apparently it has a metal hull, which he thinks might be of interest to some folks. I don't know enough about salvage dollars to matter. I will say that we're totally delighted to hear that McKinsey Beach, after all these years, might in fact go to someone who will not even have to do a management plan. They can just fold it right into their existing one. So that would be a wonderful blessing.
I wonder, should we write the Forest Service or something?
And tell them that we accept their.
Well, they haven't, but I don't know. Mr. Hartman, should we maybe encourage or send a letter of support? That just came to my mind.
Yeah, a letter of support might be nice. Saying that we're
certainly can, that we're running on empty on the management plan.
Yeah, we just haven't, where we thought we had anchored down some content availability, if somebody knew how to do this, it turned out it wasn't so. And so, for whatever reasons, that's twice. And I think after all that time, we might as well just.
And they have greater resources.
Oh, and they won't even have to do a management plan because their land comes up in contact with that land.
Mm-hmm.
So they've already got a plan. They'll just expand the boundaries of the existing plan. I mean, they will have to come up with an approach to what they're going to do with it, but it won't be like starting from scratch where you have to go out and literally count every plant and animal that is living on that property. So, which is.
And I know I would like to see the public access still continue, so we want to put that in a letter of support. What do y'all think about?
One of the things that this was discussed in the regular mitigation meeting that we had at EOC, and that's been on the project list for many years. And I sat beside the FWC person that offered the idea that they could take care of it. And the plan would be to restore the dune as it was before it was dug out. And it was dug out, for water control, but to a disadvantage to some of the local residents, which we've already heard from before. But the deal would be to build in a crossover walk over the dune, but at its original height. And they would still have access to the beach that way. So the public would be able to fish. Of course, way you want.
Well, just from the point of view of the Waterfront Partnership, we always believed that we could find a person to do it for free or for cheap, but we just never could make that happen. So.
Well, if you could think of some bullet points to forward under Courtney, and we'll be thinking about it, and maybe we can get a letter of support drafted for next month's meeting to approve.
That would be good. You may have noticed that the Sugar Shack is no longer. It has disappeared. They have treated the petroleum spill there. I have sent emails to various folks inquiring as to when they were going to remove the last dumpster of debris from that location. And they're apparently waiting until they finish. I didn't go by there today, but yesterday it was still there. But they are supposed to move that once. It takes several months for, I know this sounds totally ridiculous. They call the stuff they put in there magic dust. They put the magic dust into the petroleum spill location where it goes to the water. And it takes 3 months to see if it works, and they go back and test the water. And if it works, then the magic dust is considered successful, and they fill it back in with clean soil. So apparently it's going to be a couple months before they're totally finished at that location, but right now, so far, everything is very promising. So then we can hopefully move on to our next step of trying to make that property usable for some public purpose. I wanted to invite you all to come September 17th, which is Saturday, 8:30 to 11:30 in the morning, meeting at the pavilion. We're going to have a cleanup Carrabelle. It's the annual International Cleanup Day, and we'll be there. I think we'll do really well this year because of all the debris that was brought in from the storm. Fortunately, not large stairs and docks so much as just a lot of junk and trash, but we'll be glad to get that through. And everything, the other thing is that on Saturday, September the 24th, which is the next Saturday, we'll be having Museum Day. They've been having Museum Day at the Camp Gordon Johnson Museum, and then it's a Smithsonian Museum Day. We'll be having extra activities at our museum so that people can come to town and get to see a variety of things at the two museums that are, in addition to what's normally there. We'll be having demonstrations and talks on certain things, and I think, and showing the movie about Tatesville, which has been remarkably an attraction for us. We've been getting 4 to 6 people every time we show it, so it's, even during the storm, they came to see the movie. We weren't even open. But, and the TDC has agreed to pay for the creation of a trifold brochure about the legend of Tatesville as a PR item that could be handed out at the visitor centers and at various places. And so that's our, that's part of our new PR efforts, is to try to use Tatesville as a promotional opportunity. And our next meeting will be on September 21st at the library at 2 o'clock. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that any of you might have.
Does anyone have questions for Ms. Taylor?
Ask her later.
You'll ask her later? All right. Okay, then, we appreciate your report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you, or if Ms. Leslie has any ideas for the letters.
I'm sure she will.
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
be right in touch with her about that.
Y'all excuse me, but I tend to cough when I'm in the building. Okay, so we're not having an EDC report tonight. They report quarterly now. The Carrabelle Aviation Advisory Board, Mr. Tim Sullivan.
Good evening. Y'all got the report? Any questions on it? I did get a call from Ram Construction this afternoon about the hangar renovation project. We've been waiting on trying to get a good price on the hangar doors. He finally got the price we needed to fit it within our budget. So he should have the paperwork for that here in the next week. They were going to mobilize for the fuel relocation project this week, but because of the storm, they're pushing it to next week. So he said we should start seeing some action out there Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, let us know, we might want to take a photo or something.
Yeah.
When they break down.
Okay. The other thing I brought up there was the zoning change that they made for airport zoning areas. I believe it's like a 10-mile radius. I don't know how it affects, I don't know anything about it, but the information's there, and I'm going to take a look at that webinar and see what's involved.
And I haven't had a chance to really look at it. I was going to take a look at all the information first of the week, but are you suggested that maybe our planning and zoning might need to participate?
I would think anybody involved in the zoning would have to see it, yeah. I mean,
So our
city
clerk.
Right, it has to be done by July 2017, whatever is involved in zoning the airport areas by Florida law.
Okay, do you think
Basically,
that?
that's due with height restrictions anywhere near the airport and.
Also the type of development around the airport too, depending on the range. I think a 10-mile radius is probably obstacles, but closer in, I think there's restrictions on the land usage. But I really don't know any details.
Do you think the attorney needs to take a look at that?
Yeah, I would definitely think so, yeah.
If you would, once you view the webinar stuff, just give me a call.
Okay.
That way you can tell me, hey, this is, I can't imagine, obviously, 10-mile radius from our airport in this city would be.
Well, Tate's Hill, Franklin County.
Yeah, River Road, yeah. The airport pavement inspection too is, we were involved in an airport inspection. The state farmed it out to a corporation that maintains the airports in the state of Florida, the pavements, and they do a semi-annual, I think, or a biennial inspection of all the pavements at the airport to recommend when the airport needs to be repaved or the runways need to be repaved. So that'll be in January. Any other questions?
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Sullivan, and thank you, Mr. Bryan. We appreciate your volunteer work and all the other fellows on the Aviation Advisory Board. Okay, then we'll move on to the attorney's report. You have a report for us this evening?
Just one item of update is that I received notice from Michael Schuler over at the county regarding the dissolution of the Port and Airport Authority, that the County Commission does not have any objections to us moving ahead with that. So that was on Tuesday. They discussed it at their meeting. I will convey that to the local delegation folks and provide them a draft of the bill, and keep moving that forward.
Okay, then does that bill need to be presented the way I understood it from Ms. Mathis, that it needed to be presented at the delegation meeting? Is that necessary?
Yes, I'm gonna
Okay.
talk, I'm gonna get with her, and obviously I've read the manual they gave us, and I'll also let them take us through the process.
Okay, so then that delegation meeting will be later this month in September, so when we will be prepared for that. Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Hartman? Okay, then, Ms. Courtney?
Yes, on Tuesday last week, the CRA closed on the Mellender property. So that's closed. Now they have 45 days from the date that we closed to get that cleaned up. And they should be starting on that anytime. I also wanted to announce that we're going to have our final budget hearing September 26th at 5:01 p.m.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Courtney? All right, thank you very much. And there's no public hearing, so we'll move on forward to new business. And item 1 is discussion and possible action regarding a contract with 78 Degree Media to provide services for the fly-in event to be the second Saturday in March. And I thought that Ms. Dubois was going to be here tonight, but she's not. She had planned to be here last week, but, you know, a hurricane. So did you all get to review this contract sent out with the original agenda package? And on June, I presented a letter of support from the city for the fly-in event that we sent on to the TDC and Franklin County Board of County Commissioners. And then July the 7th, I reported back that the funding had been approved by the TDC and the Franklin County Board of County Commissioners. So 78 Degree Media will do the organizing for the events and lining up the warbirds and the helicopter rides and the free airplane rides for the youngsters through the Young Eagles program. So we want to approve that contract, and we'll have it signed and send it on for their signature. We start moving forward on planning the event. And Mr. Sullivan has reviewed the contract as well and for
What's the date they're flying proposed?
March 11th.
March 11th.
Thank you.
And it will be in conjunction with the Candy Warden Johnston Days Parade. I think we'll have a flyover over the parade with a little warbird. That's what we're shooting for anyway. So may we have a motion regarding this agreement?
Make a motion to go with the agreement.
Okay, that's Commissioner Mathis. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I think Alan weighed in first, Commissioner Allen.
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, then the motion carries. All right, we'll start making plans. Item 2, discussion and possible action concerning the water bill for Carrabelle Landings Homeowners Association pool. Mr. Shane Carroll is here, and I think he would like to address the commission.
If I could address just one quick thing on this item. I personally have an interest in some of these lots out of this Carrabelle Landing. It has no issue with this issue right now, but I just want everyone to be aware of it.
Okay.
Disclosure.
I wrote down some things. I'm Shane Carroll.
Okay, and if you use the microphone, sorry. Thank you.
I'm Shane Carroll, and me and my wife bought a lot.
Turn it on. Yeah.
Me and my wife bought a lot in Carrabelle Landing subdivision in May, and as all you probably rode through there and seen, there's been a dramatic change out there. We pretty much cleaned up the whole subdivision and set a fire precedence for the people next door. They've also cleaned up theirs. We're just going to break ground on Friday on our house, hoping it's going to start growth out there for the city of Carrabelle. And we have come aware that there's a delinquent bill of $6,200 on the pool house. We have already spent about $4,000 having the pool cleaned up and rerunning. Granted, there's only us using it out there, but anybody that owns a lot is welcome to use it out there. It's gotten a lot of traffic stirred up with it being cleaned now, and we cleaned every common area out there, we cleaned them up. And we just asking that, y'all waive this $6,200 bill that we knew nothing about, we didn't generate it. We've asked to see a bill. There's no bill that can be produced for this $6,200. And I said a few key points that the house that's there now did not have any water appliances, sink, toilet, tub, shower, nothing in it until Mr. Amiot moved in and put them in it. The pool was never operational because we had to spend money to get the pool up and running. This was the first time the pumps was fired up. I'm not saying the pool was never filled by someone previously, but it's a 17,000 gallon pool, so I guess you could do the math on to see if that come up with $6,200 it's filling. We just don't know where the bill come from. It was from 09 or before 09, and we just asked that y'all help, help us help the city of Carrabelle as we started growth out there for y'all.
All I got to say on the matter, if you don't owe a bill, you shouldn't pay it. So if anybody in here wants to pay a bill that they don't owe, I've got some.
Well, I don't know what to say now, except that he's asking for the bill to be forgiven for the homeowners association, not his private bill. Mr. Carroll has no private bill. He's asking for the bill to be forgiven for the homeowners association. And I understand, you want to get the clubhouse set up and running, and I have suggested that you get your homeowners association organized so that, you can do that. In the past, we've had two defunct subdivisions come and play. Bungalows by the Bay and Sandalwood. And they were defunct, and they had high water bills that were past due. And these bills got past due before our current administration. And with a different set of water clerk and water bills, we've got new computer system, and they can't reach back that far on a new computer system that started in 2008 or 9, so before we were all here. So, but Bungalow by the Bay and Sandalwood reorganized their homeowners association, and the city forgave 1/2 of their bill. And that has been offered to Mr. Carroll to reorganize his homeowners, their homeowners association, and to pay 1/2, the city would forgive 1/2 the bill, as the precedence has been set. Which, there's 85 to 100 lots out there, and 1/2 of the bill would be around $3,000, so that'd be, $30, $35 each lot. Mr. Carroll wants to put the bill for the for the pool in his name only. So that's, to me, I will say that's concerning, because once we let him have the bill in his name, then how does that work for the homeowners, the rest of the homeowners in the homeowners association when they get ready to use the pool? How will that work? And this is, and I understand that they didn't make the bill, and I understand Mr. Carroll didn't make the bill, and the homeowners association didn't make that bill. But it's not on Mr. Carroll's private lot. He's not being forced to take over that water bill. He's not being forced to turn on water on this property. He's asking to have the water turned on. He has been, I don't know how the bill was calculated. We can't access those records, but this is the homeowner. This is owned by the homeowner association, and that's owned by the homeowners association. That's Mr. Carroll's lot there. That I want you to see.
I own 2 lots out there.
Okay. So
I bought a few more this week. We also lease a house down here. But I'd like to make it's hard to form an association or get one started with that many lots. I can't contact every single person and make them come and do an association. What I can say is, once we drop $300,000 out here on the house, more people probably likely to come out there and not be afraid to build a house out there, because right now, like the story I've got around town is everybody's scared to do anything out there. So we're gonna brave the weather and go out and build one, and hopes that the next time somebody else builds one, hey, we got a pool up and running. This is what it costs us a month to run it. Y'all want to jump in and pay bill? We're paying $400, $425 a month right now for a pool guy just to look at. We pay $4,000 to get it cleaned. But nobody's going to come out there and build or do anything with the way it looked to start with.
Who did the bill originally belong to?
The only information I can come up with, it was Carrabelle Landings Association, and a Barbara Stokes was the one that signed the application. A bill cannot be produced. I've asked for a itemized bill. It cannot be produced. So my question is how does something that's not even operational use water? I mean, irrigation has a well out
One
there.
time it was full out, and it was just a nice grass algae growth across the top.
What, pool?
Yeah,
Oh, yes, it was. It took us, we just started swimming in it about 3 weeks ago.
yeah. It's just,
It's a good fall.
this was back about, this was back about 8 years ago when I went out.
Mhm. But we cleaned the entire, I brought my equipment down. Me and my wife, every Saturday for the last, since May, has been there every weekend, cleaning, Saturday, Sunday, and usually on into Monday before we go back to our business.
well, I would say the main issue would be, would you allow water to be turned on by someone who does not own or rent the property?
Well, I kind of am an owner of it because it's common ground, so I've got full use of it.
And we could direct the attorney to look to see if there's some type of a statute or a case where one owner in a subdivision requested total, I don't know what, you know.
Why would we even care as long as the bill gets paid?
Well, if the bill gets paid, then, but do we allow one owner to have the home, take over the
I
homeowner's
said,
exception?
care less, who takes it over as long as they pay the bill?
This make this a private pool if you,
No, anybody that owns a lot can come out there, I mean, Mr. Dan owns a lot, he can bring his whole family out there so they can swim.
I'm going to jump in it.
I mean, if you own a lot, you own a piece of the pie. So it's not like I'm trying to use your pool in your
so who's
backyard.
gonna pay the water bill?
I'll pay the water
You
bill.
pay the water bill.
I pay 2 of them down here already, I can pay that one.
So you gonna let all these other homeowners swim in it?
Well, I would think if they're legit, that they would help,
Sure, I
help
mean,
put
yeah,
frosting on the cake.
it should be, ever have any
I mean,
homeowners.
you know, I can't really get nobody out there with a lagoon, but with a pretty place, I would say I've already got interest of people even buying some more lots and actually doing a house this year out there.
I'm a little confused how you bought this property, you knew nothing about the water bill before you
Well, there's
bought it.
nothing listed on anything you look up, there's nothing listed, there's even a back payment on the street lights out there that Duke Energy holds,
So you did,
which I can turn the street lights on and put them in my name. But I don't need 9 street lights out there right now.
so,
But I can, to be a fact with you, to show you about putting things in names, I can get your address and tomorrow have your light bill in my name, according to Duke Energy.
you can have it.
I know. I mean, Mr. Ambiot moved in the pool house. He owns a lot, so he just moved in the pool house. I mean, I hadn't disputed that yet, but he had the light bill put in his name at the pool house. So he put the light bill, I put the pool board.
So the whole bill here, you just want us to give the whole $6,000?
Well, it wasn't my 6,000, or nobody out there 6,000, and y'all can't show me where it come from.
So we can't prove you owe the money, right?
That's right.
Right.
We can't prove you owe it, you don't owe
Well, thank you. Can I get a second on that?
it. Should we prove this man owes this money?
All I have is the printout from our water clerk that shows.
What happened is we changed software a couple of years ago. This is back from 2009 was the last day.
Six is
but
Please
when-
it-
let Courtney speak, just
Yeah.
for research.
So what it is when we changed software, they just, are inactive accounts, they just moved over a total balance. So we can't go back and see, was it late fees, or was it water that was actually used? We don't have that software.
Remember now, once you do this, all defunct subdivisions, this will set a precedence.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, if the people don't owe it, they don't have to pay it. I don't care if it's 25 of them.
Let's,
That makes
So,
sense to me.
All right, then, how do we want to vote? Who wants to make a motion?
Mr. Frank,
I make a motion to forget this past bill.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Mathis to forgive the $6,294.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Mathis, a second by Commissioner Allen. Is there any more discussion? Any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then the motion carries. And that was second by Commissioner Allen. Okay?
have a good day.
Well, thank you, sir. I'll do that now, Saturday, Monday.
Okay, we're gonna move, excuse me, sir. Thank you. We're gonna move forward now, thank you.
Next,
All right, now, we're gonna move on to old business and discussion and possible action regarding GUSC's obligations and requirements to the lease agreement with the city. And Mr. McCormick is here. I see Mr. and Ms. McCormick, Mrs. McCormick, and I guess Mr. McCormick wants to address the commission.
Well, I figured there's gonna be questions. At all? Anyway, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm sorry I wasn't here on August 3rd, but I was having eye surgery, and actually I didn't know about the meeting anyway, so then we missed the one on the 1st, and now we're here. I know that you do have a lot of questions about 242 Airport Road, McGinnis Way. I sent out a letter on the 30th, I believe it was, to the mayor and to the commissioners. I don't know if y'all were able to read it or not. Are there any questions about this in this letter? It's fairly lengthy and details out what we, where we were and where we are and where we're going. What we'd like to be able to do is renegotiate the lease on our building, because we know that we are in, we know that we don't have 20 people on board. And the reason we don't have 20 people on board is because when we first signed this up, and I gotta tell you, I know these dates pretty well, it was on 13 March 2014. We were told by the government in our building, at the we'll call State Bank building, that we were going to have a large contract that would start in the fall. Well, anyway, that large contract is still in, we signed the contract, but it was not funded. And it still isn't funded. It won't be funded until the new fiscal year, which starts in October, US fiscal. So that starts in October. We will receive an RFP. It'll take 30 days to answer the request for quote. It'll take another 30 days for the government to look at it, and it'll take another 30 days to have that thing back to us. And so, like I said, it's the largest contract that we have, and we have several others, and I'd be glad to talk to you about each and every one of them. Say again? Okay. Anyway, I'd be glad to talk to each and every contract, and I know them by heart, and everything that we do in the unmanned systems world that has to do with the United States government right now, the military, in particular the military, has been held up. It's been held up for 18 months. So, but we've been assured by the program managers and our people over in Panama City, because that's where these contracts are being let from, that all this stuff will start happening in fiscal 17, 18, 19, 20. They're expecting very, very good years. I mean, I'm a subcontractor to Panama City, so they're in the same position that I'm in, really. There's a lot of contractors over in Panama City that had to lay off their workforce as well. It's just been a bad couple of years for DoD contracting. But since we've done that, I have also reached out to the state government, and I hired a company out of Tallahassee, basically to run down state work, basically through FDOT, DEP, emergency management, and FWC. So the state government really wants to get into this unmanned systems business, and it's important for them. So we're working very hard on this. We're still working. We laid off our folks, but I still have 6 people on board. But we're doing environmental impact statements. We're writing contracts. We're doing a lot of different things that the folks that I had here in Carrabelle actually just couldn't do for me. So we stay busy probably 12, 14 hours a day, at least 6 days a week doing this work. So that's, we're right here. We're not planning on leaving Carrabelle, I can tell you that much. One thing that we will be, we just found this information out this week, is that we are in the running for a large vessel to be built here, a very specialized underwater vessel. It's about 40 feet long, 20 feet wide, basically an underwater barge. We made the solicitation. the Navy base, took it up to Washington, taking it up to Washington, I should say, on Monday. They're very excited about it because they become the design engineers on this project, and we're the fabricators. So that's, we want to be able to do that. And besides all the other things that we're trying to get done in the unmanned system business here. In fact, this past week, we just became the reseller for this aircraft, which is called Penguin, was a Penguin B and Penguin C. It's the aircraft is actually built in Latvia, so we're the reseller for the United States and Latin America. So these vehicles are for commercial use. This, the Penguin B, in piece parts is about $250,000. The Penguin C is right at $500,000. We've already turned in one quote to the Air Force 1 week ago. So we just came back from Huntsville.
Mr. McCormick, how will that produce, if you're selling that from the Latvian UAV factory, how will you have employees employed?
Well,
how does that employ?
People, actually, our deal with this company, this is just something brand new to us. We didn't expect.
I said, how will that make
we
your employees?
will be the trainers here in the United States. So there's extensive training for this vehicle.
But I thought you
And
just
also,
said you were selling it.
We are selling it.
Okay.
But we're handling the logistics part of it and the training part. So we will have all the spare parts. We will do the training. That will all happen right here in Carrabelle. So, and I think the other thing that I think is good, because this is our base of operations, is that when you sell something, this is a big ticket item. It's like selling it's a $500,000 item you buy. You got 7% tax on it. So I think that Carrabelle probably would get 1% of that. So if we sell a few of these a year, it helps out everybody. And like I said, we have a very aggressive sales team. The sales team is made up of a group called NexuTech. I've been working with these people. They promote GUSC basically. I don't know if you've met any of these NexuTech people, but I'd be glad to introduce you to them. But that's what they do for a living, and they're also promoting us with the unmanned surface testing world too.
Okay, all right. I just want to let you know that at our August commission meeting, the discussions were focused only on the facts that GUSC is in default of the lease agreement. Discussions didn't include your present financial position or whether or not the city supports GUSC. And that has nothing to do with the fact that you are in default of the agreement. And
we're aware of that.
in the beginning, the city was, and the city did support the business plan concept in the very beginning back in 2011, and I did too. I was very excited about it. But the contract, you're in default of that now. And your 6-page letter, I picked it apart, I would.
Absolutely, and I expect that.
I'll have some information to follow up, but it's really a distraction from what we're here to discuss. On the agenda item, we're here to discuss wherever the agenda item is, right here. Discussion of possible action regarding GUSC's obligations and requirements to the lease agreement. And you talk about, in your letter, you claim that there's a missing detail, that you had a missing detail to inform the city of GUSC's current status. I don't feel like there was a missing detail. That was clearly outlined in the lease agreement that you signed to inform, of your employment status annually. And that wasn't done. And you talk about when you came to Carrabelle, it was a phone call or a handshake. I've known you now for 5 years, since fall of 2011. We've always worked in the sunshine. This board has always worked collectively. The agreements were never done with a phone call and a handshake. We've always been very formal with our agreements. And, you know, I don't understand what you were referring to there. And I don't understand why the city wasn't notified immediately when GUSC realized it couldn't fulfill the contract obligations.
Well, in January, we had contracts up until January 1st.
But you
And
did
then
not
I had
have a full staff.
Excuse me.
Okay.
I had 14 people on staff at that time.
Your paperwork that you submitted does not show that you had that many full-time people according to the
I
contract.
had 12 people from Carrabelle. I have other people from the other parts of the state and out of state.
But the paperwork, the Excel spreadsheet that you submitted originally did not indicate that, and the other sheets that you submitted did not, you know, they don't indicate that right here. I don't count 14 people here. I do count four high-paid people, and I don't.
We submitted that to
Nine people I count here, 4 high-paid people. So, you know, I don't count 14 people, and, you know, especially local citizens, which, you know, we you know, the whole, that was the understanding. The commissioners and the community believed the agreement would be honored, and that there would be, you know, employees from the community, from the local community. And I don't understand why, when we sent the first notice asking for employment records on March the 29th, and we had to send a second notice on April the 13th, finally on April the 28th and 29th, we received the information, and it wasn't the correct information. You know, it took a month. Why did it take a month for the CEO to produce records? You know, you should be able to get your hands on.
we were using paychecks, and they were doing more HR than just.
Well, it's concerning that it
And then
takes.
we went to Frank Cross, so we had to collect this information. But we weren't doing this maliciously to slow things down.
No,
We,
but it's
we
concerning.
got it to courting and.
All right, that you can't produce, you can't get your hands, you don't know the immediate status of his payroll.
Can I join?
Just a moment, Commissioner Allen would like to say something.
I think that the matter of having the employees that you planned on having in the original contract, you know, because of the lack of fulfillment of contracts, and as your letter explains, that you planned your employment record based on these contracts that the federal government were going to give. When the federal government didn't give the contract, you had no way of complying with that employment record. It's very similar to the problem over at the hospital in Apalachicola. They've got bills, and the federal government is going to give them the money to pay the bills back. But in the meantime, the federal government's holding the money and backing up, and so the hospital's going more and more in debt, and this is creating a problem, same problem as we have here with the county commission. And I think that what you're really asking for is just to try to get a clean start with a new program based on the evidence that you have now of these contracts that will be fulfilled when the federal government passes, what's that bill, 170? It's in here.
The FAA Part 127.
That once that does happen, then the money the pipe will be open for it to go ahead and complete these contracts.
That part,
And I think
part
that
107 has been passed already, and I can bring it
Then we're on the ball now. What we have here, I think, is a business that could have great potential for the city of Carrabelle. I've been out there and seen some of the projects that you're talking about, or up and down the coast, vehicles to look at bridges, of course, construction rather than having people in them. You have a unit out there that can go underwater and check underwater structure of bridges. I think those are fabulous projects, and I think the potential of that is still there. And I personally would like to see that you have a second chance on this, and that we could renegotiate a contract and have our attorney come up with something that would be favorable to all of us, and then we could keep this business here at Carrabelle and we would be the center of your unmanned program, and I think it's a great idea.
You know what,
If we could just come to some kind of agreement.
I want to ask you, Commissioner Allen, have you seen a signed contract, sir?
No, I haven't.
Oh, do you have the signed contracts?
I don't have it with me.
Can you produce those tomorrow?
Ma'am?
Can you produce those tomorrow?
Sure.
All the signed contracts that are, your.
Oh, you talk about the signed contract with the, what I had with the
Yes,
government?
that Commissioner Allen is referring to.
Yeah, I can show you I can show you my contract agreements that are signed. And they're an overarching thing under a major government contract. So I would gladly show Commissioner Allen.
Can you show them to Miss Courtney?
I can show them Miss Courtney. Now, there's some things in it that I have to be careful of, because what they talk about in this contract is sensitive information, so it's not something that we can put into the public record or go into the newspaper or something, because that, I would be in violation of the law.
But I just want to get back
I'm
to,
glad
we're not
You
discussing
have to have a long
here.
time before you get this.
We are not,
This much paperwork.
the discussion is getting away from what we're actually discussing, is that Mr. McCormick, GUSC, is in default of the contract. And I want to say that I've known Mr. McCormick since 2011. And he came knocking on Carrabelle's door in 2011 when he wanted to expand his tactical maneuver training facilities to this region. And it was called Appalach Regional Training Complex. Remember that? And I came out there with Courtney and Chief Ham and the attorney, and you know, we just wanted to. We went to Blountstown to the Calhoun County Airport where he had his business. And next, you changed your name of your business to GUSC, Gulf Unmanned Systems, and you were going to manufacture unmanned aerial vehicles. And then next you changed your business plan to manufacturing all types of unmanned vehicles, aerial, surface, underwater. Then you changed your business plan to being a landlord at the building on John McGinnis Road, and you were going to sublease 1,000 to 2,000 square feet for individual units to other companies that manufacture UAVs. Then you stated that, and you have now, that GUSC is the location I've lost my place, for vocational training and manufacture of operations. So you were going to train folks. So you're going to evidently train on this Penguin and operation of unmanned vehicles. Then you requested a lease for 5 acres to build an unmanned vehicle track for use for FSU, on which city resources and time were spent developing this contract, and you were a part of that, and we had no follow-up with you. You never came back on that. Then you requested the city of Carrabelle at the airport. You wanted to test on unmanned lawnmowers, and you didn't have a signed contract, you didn't have equipment, and you didn't have funding. And that was more time here with city resources expended. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, you've had me meet with you several times. You've asked me for support in designating GUSC as a special district that would include the Carrabelle River and the Carrabelle Airport. You were recently quoted in the newspaper saying that you're a sales and training agent for the UAV factory, just as you have mentioned here for this Penguin, from Latvian. Now you have, you say it was reported in the newspaper that you have a signed contract to develop an unmanned lawnmower for the FDOT.
I do not have a signed contract.
Okay, very good, because
But we have had, right up until July, Mayor, we were told we have spent a huge amount of time answering all the questions for Embry-Riddle University and for Florida Department of Transportation for this lawnmower. They recently, and when I say recently, in August, got a new undersecretary in at FDOT. He wants to look at all these programs. That lawnmower is one of them. He wants to devote more money in R&D to smart cars. I mean, you know, that's just part of life. Everything doesn't work out for you. But we've been working on that lawnmower project for, you know, it's not a huge project. It's $75,000, but basically it keeps about 3.5 to 4 people busy for 6 to 7 months.
How does it
we
keep
probably-
people busy when there's no funding? I've talked to the people at
I'm
Embry-Riddle.
saying that it was not a huge contract. I don't know that we're gonna get it now or not.
Right, Embry-Riddle, I just talked to, I communicated with Charles Reinholz, and he says that you had a proposal pending, they had a proposal pending with GUSC, but there's no contract in place and no assurance of funding from the FDOT.
Because that's coming from FDOT, that's correct.
And then I contacted the FDOT, I contacted here in this district, they don't know anything about a contract for unmanned lawnmower system. And then I have this fellow, Greg Victory, who's the Department of Communications Coordinator for the entire Florida Department of Transportation, and they're doing a search on the entire Florida Department of Transportation to see if there's any kind of a contract with GUSC to develop an unmanned lawnmower system. And
Well,
then,
as I said, we've been working on the contract, but we've never got the signed contract. And I can tell you that we have a lot of hours in labor to do all of it.
in your letter, you said that GUSC is negotiating with Franklin County Schools, not in your letters. You gave that in an interview, it was published in the paper, to provide vocational training for people to work in an unmanned systems center. But I contacted Ms. Sue Summers, who's at the Franklin County School, who is over the vocational programs there, and she said they're continuing their dual enrollment courses with Embry-Riddle, and that we did have a visit from the CEO of the Unmanned Systems Center last spring and discussed the job opportunities provided through the use of drones in various industries. We let him know at the time we had a partnership with Embry-Riddle, and GUSC never mentioned training for our students, only employment opportunities in the future.
Yeah, actually, that's what we're talking about, an apprenticeship program. You know, they're finding good skilled labor here to be able to do these types of jobs that we're.
But you don't have a contract with the Franklin County School Board to train folks?
No, I never said I did.
That was
What
in
we want
that
to
was in
do
the
is
newspaper.
take people right out of high school. Comes out in the newspaper, I can't help it.
Okay.
But what I talked with them about on 4 different occasions at GUSC, over at the school, is that, and they were excited about this, providing an apprenticeship program. The kids got to be graduated from high school, highly motivated, we have a criteria laid out, and recommended by the school, and then we pay them. We pay them a minimum wage for 18 months to teach them how to do what we need to get done. It's not just flying around a little vehicle, it's doing the admin work, it's doing the maintenance, it's doing all these different things that we have to be successful.
All right, you say that GUSC has assurance by the Department of Defense program managers that several programs will launch and are expected this coming October. You can just
Yeah,
say that
I
here.
put that in the paper.
Okay. Yes, because then I got that out of your letter. And several programs may be launched. They may be,
Actually,
expected.
you
But
know,
do
everybody
you,
is
and I'm
waiting for this
asking you
new
now,
money to roll in
do
October.
you have actual signed contracts with the Department of Defense that you can show us before we make any other changes to anything?
Well, let's make this real clear. I don't have the contract with the Department of Defense. I have the contracts with Alliance Science and Technology. I am a subcontractor on a contract called DS-TAC. The contract that we're working on right now is, I think the ceiling is $48 million. But unfortunately, there's money that hasn't been sent from the Office of Naval Research to fulfill that contractual relationship.
And do you have that signed contract?
I do. That's what I was just talking about. I'm glad to bring it over.
All right. Now, just, you know, to me, just saying that you're assured by multiple sources, you know, that's not sufficient. Not after all these years of all these things that you say you're doing, or you're having, or you're getting.
Mayor, I'd love
Okay.
to be able to say that. Gosh, darn, I wish I wasn't.
And I wish you could too. I wish you weren't here
that's
either. I
what
mean, you're
it's
here time and time again. And what I want to know now is when you get these contracts, where's the manpower?
Gotta hire them.
But how are they gonna be trained? If you get a, if
You
you
know, that's
if you
what I,
have a
you know,
contract
that's
tomorrow.
what I did. You know, that's what we did immediately when we hired people. I think it was, we started hiring people, June of 2014. We used, Gulf Coast State College. We trained, you know, these folks are employees, being paid for this. They devoted their time to online sessions, and it was a great curriculum. They got 30, I think they got 30 hours credit for that. It was a very.
So if you have a contract tomorrow to develop this underwater boat that you just mentioned, you have a large contract coming in 30 days, where are the trained employees to start that production? Where is the equipment to start that production?
Well, actually the building that we have, the operations center, what we will do is we will put the parts together. We're just going to fabricate it. You know, we don't have a machine shop, although we build a machine shop, but we just don't have machines. But that's about another $1 million. I've already got $2 million into this operation. So, which is, like I said, I'm here to stay. But I have to find another $1 million for that, so I've used in the shop in Panama City that I've always used for.
And you did talk about in your letter the $1,975,000 that in shares and stocks that are being sold, have been sold, and it's on the Securities and Exchange Commission. You can see that as well through Carolina Financial Group, and they received $136 in commission. And the minimum investment is $25,000 in case anybody wants to invest in GUSC. But you purchased the Gulf State Bank building, which, none of us had any idea that was going to be an extra burden on GUSC's shoulders. And you purchased that from Deltona Group, and I understand it's financed. And then, that acquisition had nothing to do with the city. The city made no money off of it. It's making no money off of it. It didn't have anything to do with GUSC's obligations to fulfill the lease agreement. And so, after you've invested, almost $2 million, as you say, but now, what do we have? What do we have to show?
Well, actually, the reason I bought that back building is because when the government came to talk to me on March 13th, 2014, is we went for that bank building. They wanted that bank building so they could move their engineers and scientists over here. And I don't know if you know what the upstairs of that building looks like, but it's all cubicles and offices. It doesn't share anything with downstairs where the bank was. So they liked the vault that's in the back because that was important to them. And they liked upstairs because they could close that off for themselves. And then the big building would be used for their projects. That was the
So
whole
where are they, these engineers and scientists?
They're with they're with this contract. I mean, they don't come over here because, they don't come over here because they follow the contract.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you have a building with offices in it for engineers and scientists, but they don't come here.
May I?
Yeah.
join in on
Okay,
this?
yet, they don't come here yet.
Yes, please.
Do you want me to join in?
Sure.
You can come on, but I
This
want
is
right
my
now.
wife, Cheryl.
Okay.
She runs, and a couple of things that we've done. We're also working on being ISO 9000 compliant. We're also, these are things that we've been doing since January. And we're also what they call their
Let me talk.
Okay, and, well, I want to first, Ms. Cheryl, I would like to address one paragraph where Mr. McCormick explains the history of how, about the building, where he talks about that the building, the export building was built by the previous tenant.
Right.
And no, it was not built by the previous tenant. I just want, because some of these commissioners may not have been here then. It was built, it was funded with a community development block grant, and that was through the city of Carrabelle. And the city of Carrabelle matched that with approximately $700,000. So the previous tenant, Greensteel, did not build that building, and it was constructed on city-owned land. And the previous tenant used its lease with the city as collateral to secure a line of credit from the bank. And that was of no value to the city. And then when the previous tenant went out of business, the bank placed a lien on the lease and held the lease. And so litigation between the city and the bank was near settlement when Mr. McCormick arrived here in 2011, you know, knocking at Carrabelle's door. You came here.
So are you saying then that it didn't require the $240,000
That was y'all
to
were,
do that
Mr.
lease?
McCormick.
Actually, to make that,
Mr. McCormick, you were fully advised of the situation regarding the bank's lien.
Are you saying that that didn't need to be paid?
That was Mr. McCormick's decision. It was suggested in public meetings that you wait till the matter was settled between the city and the bank. The city was working on that. Mr. Hartman was working on that with the bank aggressively. And then after that was finished, then you could negotiate with the city only. You did not have to go to the bank. That was your choice. You insisted on moving forward. And you purchased the bank's interest in the lease. You purchased the bank's interest.
Yeah, I was not working with the city. I was
Right,
not working with
no.
the city. I was working with a company called Massey.
And you paid them $240,000, and I want to say that was not prepaid rent.
That was not beneficial to the city?
No, it's not.
The city would not have had to pay that.
No money came to the city in any way.
Oh, I understand no money came to the
That was not prepaid
city.
rent in any way to the city. And, you know.
But I was under the understanding that that had to be paid before moving forward, which in essence it did, but your belief is if Mr. McCormick had waited, that you would have been able to negotiate that down to
Yes,
zero.
right. And regarding the
Because
conditions.
when you look at the big picture, you know, that was a huge investment coming to Carrabelle.
It did not come to Carrabelle. That went to Centennial
No,
Bank.
I don't mean it, I mean for Bruce to work in Carrabelle. So I would say that there's some misunderstanding there in the beginning, because it was his belief that that did help the city of Carrabelle, in essence, that it cleared the litigation. But if it didn't, I agree with you. This isn't
cleared
helping
the
us get
litigation, but
to.
that was clearly the choice of GUSC. And then on the condition of the building that Mr. McCormick.
So the city may have still been sitting on it. May I ask you something? Do you have people interested in this building right now?
I received
do you
2
have-
phone calls this year.
Okay, because it just feels, it almost feels like an interrogation at this point
Well,
right now. But I agree, we need to look at how can we
I
move
want to
forward.
know all of these items that Mr. McCormick has made a claim here. And I want to address the fact that the building, Mr. McCormick was fully aware of the interior of the building. I went inside the building. The first time he went inside of it I went with him. That was
And the
first
point
time.
of that is that the city does have a building that has
Right.
improvements in
But he
it.
was
Is
fully
that
aware of it.
beneficial to the city?
And the contract was an arm's length transaction. Nobody was forced to sign that contract with the bank. Nobody was forced to pay off the bank. Nobody was forced to enter into an agreement with the city. And the mere condition of the building and the promise made by GUSC to provide employees to our community is why GUSC has that building for $10 a year and pays no property taxes. And that is why. That's why you have it. It was the condition of the building and the fact that you were going to provide employees here. And that's what we're addressing here.
Well, we understand what you're
Okay.
addressing. You know, I understand that I had to let off my people who I consider friends as well, and had to lay them off because our contract ran out. And because of money flowing from the government it didn't come. And I'm hearing that from whether it's the state government or county government. So, you know, at least we think we're going to be getting it in October through that January timeframe. So, you know, we're not doing this because we're just having a lot of fun doing it. We spent a lot of money, a lot of time and effort, and, you know, we're not going away.
I would agree that the purpose of this should be to say, can GUSC start over? Can GUSC request a reset button? And why would the city want to do that? Obviously, it was a belief and intent that paying that rent did help the city in clearing up a lease. I see that we disagree over that, and I don't know the answer to that, but it doesn't help us going forward. The big picture of the FAA 107 is that that just did get passed, and you said you were familiar with it. So it just went into force just a few days ago.
29 August.
And let me say that affects, and y'all know it, small unmanned aerial vehicles under 55 pounds.
Right.
Commercial use. That has no effect on surface vehicles, underwater vehicles, anything that's going on with the department.
We never said it did.
That, you know, you have claimed that your major initiatives are with the Department of Defense. And
Actually, our business model is this, and it's always been like this. If you look through our business plan, which was written in 2013, and it has not changed. But the only thing that's really changed then is that we went to a resale of vehicles. But everything that we said we were going to do was housing people for unmanned systems projects. Always said that. Manufacturing, not necessarily aerial vehicles. I'm out of the maritime part of this business. Building boats is what I really do for a living. And there's going to be a lot of unmanned surface vessels built. And this, I think, is the greatest place in the world to build those things in the United States. So aerial vehicles, that was always a little bit on the downside. 30%, our business model has always said 30% DOD, 70% state and industry. So it's always said. So now we signed the contract. We thought, well, that's good. We got the DOD thing out of the way.
signed which contract?
The contract we were just talking about.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with Part 107 ruling, no.
Where it
Actually,
does.
no, whether it does or not, the Part 107, all Part 107 does is give us the green light to go ahead with things like this, with things like our aerial vehicles.
Is that another 55? Is that under 55 pound?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I want to say, I do have a list of that Part 107 ruling here, and I've studied it. And it doesn't really, there's no mention in there that provides for contracts, you know. All this really is like it outlines the user guidelines and who can use them, and you know, what kind of certification it has to be for commercial use.
This
Right.
vehicle
Yeah.
is
So,
designed
but
specifically
you know,
for
in the
survey,
past, right.
agriculture.
You know, that really shouldn't have affected your business, this, waiting on this ruling to happen on user guidelines.
So one of the ways that it has, if you, I mean, just listening to your history, you said you've known,
For 5 years.
Mr. McClure for 5 years. And you mentioned Arctic. When he came here with Arctic, that was not his business. He was an employee of Arctic, and they were doing training. He was the sole representative of it. There were other people, owners within the company. So that was for training, something entirely different. That came to a close, and then Bruce started looking at the building down here, and I actually said to him, if you're going to go forward with this, be an owner yourself instead of having partners that you have to work with and please, which he did do this time. How the FAA 107 affects is if you look at the big picture of the unmanned industry, it is huge. This has touched multiple businesses, and everybody was waiting.
I understand that, but
For
that did not slow down
But
production.
I'm trying to explain it to me, and you
Okay.
won't let me explain it, and I wish you would. Okay? for just a few minutes to get this through. The big picture of it is that we were asking for an exception for a lot of the contracts that were done. The contracts that GUSC has are contracts to be a subcontractor, and the government can work any different parts of business through the company they want to. You have to do that through task orders. So there's a difference. The government decided to create a whole unmanned division. When the government backed up with that, if you remember, the funding for the government wasn't approved in October. It wasn't approved until months later. That put a delay, and everybody was in the government with everybody in a position of holding on and saying, we're waiting until these rulings come out, because everybody had to get an exemption before this got approved. And FAA got so backed up that they didn't inform anybody that this is what they were doing, but there were so many applications they couldn't respond to everybody.
So does the government manufacture these small unmanned drones then that we can buy at Walmart? Is that, I mean, was it all the production holding up?
I think we're talking about what GUSC envisioned doing and what GUSC envisioned doing with the employees. And GUSC did employ at least 10 people and up to 14 people, and then this has been going on for GUSC for 2 years, on and off with, we're on, we're off, we're not getting a straight story. We have now seen the industry just bust wide open. I mean, I am sure every one of you are flooded with information of how this market is changing. It's helping agriculture, it's going to help inspections. The lawnmower was one of them. What's happening with that is, again, it's a funnel. It's people above other people. So this, we did work with the Florida Atlantic University, testing a boat that was for bridge inspection. And that was done here. It was a completed contract. The lawnmower was something similar to this. Bruce engaged the group up in Tallahassee to help with us understand the upper level of where does the money come from and how do we get in line and how do we make sure we're talking to the right person who can sign the contract and fund the contract. Because what we have already heard, and we just started working with them just last month. So what we've already heard is that there's people.
They're talking about Smith, Bryan, and Myers, a lobbying firm.
Right.
That's correct.
And what we've already heard from them is,
We give you all the information.
Yeah.
like the local people here, local people in FDOT, isn't necessarily a straight chain from the top and how they're going to make this money. The state is going to go after using unmanned services for multiple things. One of our consultants is working with a city, a development in Fort Myers, Florida, and they are enlisting unmanned. So this market is just wide open.
It is
So what
wide
we're
open.
saying to you
And I'm telling
is,
you that we are excited about it, and we want to see some action.
And
Not words, not
and
promises of contracts.
we do too.
And,
So we understand that it has been a 2-year.
We want to see it too.
I'm
Still, I
sure
wanna see it
your
because
$2 million investors want to see that
And
as
in
well.
our time,
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have a lot of time invested in this thing, and we take no paychecks.
So how do we
Your-
see that going forward?
Your spreadsheets and your payroll checks show me that you're
I
the
took 3
highest
paychecks,
paid.
I gave 2
That-
of them back to make payroll for the other.
Okay.
employees.
All
Yes,
right.
he has done that a couple of times, and that was for 1 year out of the years you've known him.
And, you know, you're living in a building, a commercial building where you haven't even come and asked for, you know, you think we're not supporting you, but that building where you're living, you need, that is that building is part of the Gulf Unmanned Systems Center building. It was purchased with Gulf Unmanned Systems Center investor money. And that does not, you have not requested a special exception to live there and use that as a residence. And that is required.
I thought we were allowed to consider
That was mixed use, but if that's not correct, then
That's the way
we can
we
certainly do that.
interpreted that.
Right, you interpret it, so. I want to say something, there was some, you know, in here, you know, we've got laymen here, and in your letter, I just want to address some things so that the commission understands. You talk about DCAA compliant, and DCAA stands for Defense Contract Auditing Agency. We so, he's just referred to these things in here, and if you didn't look it up or Google it, then you wouldn't know. And that's a agency within the Department of Defense that performs all the auditing and accounting practices of the contractors and subcontractors like yourself. And I'm concerned, why did you just now become DCAA compliant in July of this year, when the majority of your stuff?
When we first started out, we didn't have the wherewithal to get that. I mean, it's very expensive.
It is, and actually, you can actually hire, there's multiple accounting firms where you can outsource that. You don't have to have it in-house.
Well,
And a lot of small
in order
business.
for us to be a prime contractor on a government contract, so we're a subcontractor now.
We don't have to be DCAA compliant right now. We don't even have to be.
So-
That is being
So that's
proactive
why we
on
did
our
that.
side so that we can go after more business.
And it's
And
very
then I just want to address the hub zone. He refers to hub zone in here. And that means historically underutilized business zone. And Carrabelle, all of Carrabelle is in a census tract that allows any small business within the city of Carrabelle to be in that hub zone. And every small business in Carrabelle is in that hub zone. And if they want to get certified, all they have to do is complete an application through the Small Business Administration online. It may not be that simple, but it
It's
can be
not that
done.
simple, please.
Right, and then one of the requirements is that 35% of the firm's total workforce must reside in that hub zone.
Correct.
Yeah, so if you get any contracts that through that regarding you, you'll have to.
Yeah,
And then,
that becomes a moot point, because as soon as we get a contract, we start bringing our people back. I mean, I talked to our folks
right.
and see them on the
Okay,
district.
and then in here you talk about this UISS, which is an underwater system.
No, actually,
That's it right there.
Yep.
And this company, Textron, was awarded a $33.9 million contract in October of 2014 to build this unmanned influence suite system, UISS. And Textron's more than halfway through with this, building this on their 30-month contract with the Navy. And in-water testing was scheduled to begin in the Gulf of Mexico back in July. And, that's over in East New Orleans now. How does
No, that's
the...
what Textron won. One of their divisions in Maryland actually won it. But they also have a vessel building facility for aluminum boats only in East New Orleans. So they built the first four boats, and they tested them, they're at Lake Pontchartrain in that sound right there. In July, the end of July, they were awarded the production contract. So the production contract is not only for UISS, it's also for the other acronyms.
The Common Unmanned Surface Vehicle.
Right, and they're basically the same.
But being that that's in East New Orleans, how is that in the GUSC geographical
They're
area?
being tested because they're mine countermeasures. That's what they're doing. So they're being tested in Panama City. The program comes to Panama City, and I think it's February of next year.
And so how is GUSC, how are you slated to support this program?
We will support because of the problems they have in Panama City. And that's one of the reasons we're here, is that they don't have enough room to operate those boats over in Panama City, or a lot of different programs we're working on. So they want to use this as a new boat test bed.
Let me see if we can maybe bring this down to the bottom line, I think. The issue of the lease, the city does have a position that it could cure the lease based on the lack of employees and the information provided. Let me ask you a question. If we did that, would you continue to stay here and build your business?
Absolutely, yeah, we think.
Without that building, you could still do your business, you'd find other places?
Well, unfortunately, I don't want to do that.
I understand that. I'm just asking
We're
you
here. I mean,
if that's a possibility.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
And so then we would have an empty building out there with no one, you said you have a couple of people interested in it. it was that way for how long? About 5 years, 4 years, that people were interested in it, that we never got it. I just feel like that, and you've said several times that, you know, he's got a great business, he's got a lot of potential there. It just needs a little more time to get fed, get the pipeline going. I just asked our attorney if there's some way we could do a temporary hold on curing the lease to get a little more information, or can we just renegotiate it? What would be our best approach on this, Mr. Hartman? Put it on your shoulders.
All right. There's really two approaches. We've been taking one approach up to this point, which is that we have not pursued the, as far as declaring them in default. Mr. McCormick made it clear that they are, that they simply haven't met the employment requirements that everybody hoped they would meet under the lease, and he's explained why. The city absolutely has the discretion to, just as we have done, this issue has come up, you were not here, whether it was on August 3rd and even before, where we simply tabled it and, for lack of a better term, can down the road to provide additional time. This city has that option still, that the city does not have to move forward with action to take back control of the building or anything like that. We do not waive any of our rights to do so at a later date, but we don't have to move forward, just as we've talked about this in meetings prior to this. The other option is what I think Mr. McCormick brought up, is that what they would see is a renegotiation of the lease. So another amendment to the lease that would, what I'm hearing, provide more time, potentially lighten or just come up with new criteria as far as employment, benchmarks, timelines, milestones, all that sort of stuff. The city does not have to do that in order to give Mr. McCormick more time. That's the idea. We could, of course, we can always contract, we can always negotiate, we can always amend, we can do all that. Do we have to do that? No. We can simply, through commission action, agree to, we've done it already at this point, tabling the item multiple months, kind of reserving any rights we have, just keeping them available to us. If we renegotiate, we have a new contract. We certainly understand our rights. Mr. McCormick understands his rights under the existing contract. I'm being redundant here. We don't have to, in order to provide additional time, if that's what's being sought, it sounds like that is what's being sought here today, we don't have to do anything. Doing nothing provides that time. At the same time, we can draft an amendment to the lease, go through that process like we did actually on the additional 5 acres. Or obviously if the commission says, you know what, enough's enough, then absolutely we can move forward with under the rights, duties, obligations, everything we have in the lease as it sits.
Well, I'm personally convinced that there's a great future here, and I believe that it's coming to that. And, of those two options, I think for right now, I would say I would make a motion that we that we postpone and give time for some of these things to come to fruition. And then make a decision then whether we need to renegotiate a new lease, or it might be that time he could comply with the 30 that he's supposed to have in the third year. I don't know, but that's just so basically I'm saying let's not take any action now and give a little time for that to develop. That's my motion.
Commissioner Allen, do you have a suggestion, a time limit?
What would the board think? Anybody have an idea?
Let me ask you a question.
Sure. Yes, sir.
If you say your contracts are ended.
Yes, sir.
Is there a time period?
Well, we have been, and believe me, pray to God for this, that in October, the new fiscal year starts October 1st. At that time, money is going to be lent to these different agencies that funds Panama City. It gets to be a little bit confusing. The biggest one is the Office of Naval Research. They're the people that are really in charge of all these unmanned systems. So by the time we get the RFQ, it'll take us 30 days to respond to the RFQ. By the time we send that RFQ back to Panama City, it will take them 30 days to answer it or reply to it, and another 30 days to get it back to us. So from the sixth, let's just, as a time period, just to say October 1, well, we wouldn't see anything until January. Would be.
So early as you see you can put people back to work January.
Well, here's what would happen. We get the RFQ. Then we'll, when we're answering the RFQ, we'll know the amount of people that we have to have as support staff for those original contracts. Then we'll know how many people we're going to put on board. And, then we can start, then we can say, okay, let's get these 6 people on board and start getting them trained for this, probably a new job. And we go from there. But it'll ramp up. When the money starts flowing, it's going to ramp up very quickly. And one of my biggest problems is where we keep finding these people. We had good people, and on staff, and then we went through about 70 or 80 folks. So we have to start. That's why I want to do this apprenticeship program with the school. So, yeah, I mean, labor is a big problem.
And that's a good thing, though, that the universities now, and this is an indication of how this business is growing, because GUSC worked with TCC in the Wakulla branch, and actually is one of GUSC's employees who developed the curriculum to offer the unmanned 1 and 2, and they did several classes there. And now all of the colleges are getting into this business. They're all now offering classes in unmanned, so that's a big change.
In fact, it was such a cutthroat deal. We were at WEI under the president out there, director, his name was Paul Ballard, and it was very, very. It was a great curriculum. We did 3 classes. There was 20 people in each class. We filled the classes up like a month. But then Gulf Coast Community College, who we went to originally to help do this in Carrabelle, and we actually offered them up upstairs for night classes for an LDN class. They turned us flat down. Then they went to WEI, well, not to WEI, they went to TCC to Jim Burbank. He's the president of TCC, and he flat told those folks that they cannot, because we taught classroom over at WEI, and then we taught practical here. He said they were forbidden to send any students across the Avalocney River in the Franklin County. Well, that just killed them.
And it became political because they had this.
Okay, let's move forward, Mr. Cal.
January would be a date that you consider.
Well, I think you've got to give me a little leeway on that, because here's the other thing. December 15th, or Thanksgiving, till mid-January, the government, for all practical purposes, shuts down. Now, if we get our RFQ, we don't shut down, but we're answering the RFQ. But,
Okay, because that's quiet. Go ahead. And I do suspect you'll be coming back. We're not going to go through all this when you come back. I'm not going to pick everything apart. It's going to be cut and dry when you come back.
That's fine.
I would suggest. I'm not going to go through all of this.
I understand that.
Okay.
You have that choice.
I would suggest 6 months. 6 months.
I see about 6 months. I think that,
6 months.
I think that's
That
good.
we will table the default, to moving on the notice of default for 6 months. I do not suggest to renegotiate the contract at this time. And I want to see some signed contracts and some action.
Okay, but you asked for the signed subcontract that we have with Wyoming Science and Technology, and I will bring that. Like I said, there are some sensitive parts in it that I will have to hang around with the commissioner or the mayor or the commissioners or the court if you want to look at. You know, it's going to be time.
If I can make a quick recommendation on that, just a side item, as far as the signed contract, understanding what you're talking about, if you email it to the city, it becomes public record.
I'm not going to.
So that's fine. You bring it in person, certainly everybody, just set up a time, everybody wants to look at it, can look at it, and you can take it with you.
So, 6 months from when?
Yeah, you asked me what the date was, so I'll say 6 months from
Today?
today.
Okay. Is that all right? 6 months?
So I've
Okay.
got the motion on the floor.
And so Commissioner Allen motions to table the
Table.
notice of default and take no action until 6 months from today.
That's fine.
Okay. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and that's second by Commissioner Walden. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then the motion carries.
Good
All right,
luck.
so- All right.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. I know this is
It's
painful.
all right.
Oh, by the way, the chief called me up the other day about, we've got a broken door over there, that actually, we were letting people store boats or vehicles for the storm, and unfortunately, no good deed goes unpunished, so the door got broken. But anyway, we got people coming out from Tallahassee, hopefully Monday or Tuesday, to fix the door.
Unless you know of a local person who can do it, and we would by all means hire them, but we haven't been able to do
You've
it.
probably done the right thing. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
appreciate it.
All right. Discussion and possible action regarding proposed amendments to the current municipal dock ordinance. And we've been over this one. I want to say, I think have you had communication with anyone? You reported that in your meeting, Ms. Tamara.
We gave our input.
Excuse me, in your report.
Right, we talked to Rob about it, and we're fine with what's there. But as far as, I'm not sure I understand your question.
On the dock, on the old Coast Guard dock.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Usage.
yes, I have been in contact with those people, but they have not given me what I consider a definitive answer. They were going to go back, and because the time limit is run on the record retention schedule, it was harder for them to find out, and they've changed staff completely since that time frame. So my understanding was that she had talked to you, and that she was going to pursue looking at some other information for all of us, wasn't she?
Yeah, they're going to go ahead and send it to, and this is with Ms. Bass with the preferred applications. She's going to forward that on to her legal office, the state legal office now, to see how those the old Coast Guard docks can be used.
Yes.
And that was part of the suggestion of the dock ordinance. But, do we want to table this? Maybe we need to have a workshop on it, on whether or not, how we want to designate these docks. I will say there were 2 recreational vehicles at the docks the other day. As an emergency, they were there. And some of us want it to be all recreational, some of us want that dock to be all commercial, and some of us want it to be used for both, to try to have a compromise. I don't know what the state's going to say. They do say with the application of the land and water conservation grant through the National Park System that it looks like it's going to have to be reserved for public use. They'll let us know with their...
What we thought, but we got to get an answer, a real answer.
So, do y'all have any, we've been over this dock ordinance. Mr. Powis gave us some suggestions. We've all had his suggestions. I've suggested to add a definition on there for loading and unloading, what that means, the 30 minutes, to load your boat up on the trailer and your gear or unload it. He's city docks, he's added some wording. The main thing that has changed is the section 745 on the purposes of the city docks. He's changed suggested to change the entire section, talking about short-term mooring, and the docks are used for purpose of loading and unloading boats only on their vessels and trailers, and that wouldn't exceed 30 minutes. And that would be for like the Marine Street program, for the 4th Street program. And then he talks about commercial mooring, to use that at the old Coast Guard dock for 2 or 3 days, and then recreational mooring at the old Coast Guard dock as well for 2 or 3 days.
Provision for some visiting thing like the Governor Stone that would be tied for a week or so.
Is that recreational or, but now?
It's historical. It's a National Historic Museum.
Okay. In this dock ordinance, it's always had exemptions in here, and the city administrator can grant an exemption, so that would probably be done.
That'd work.
Yeah, it's right here, exemptions. And you put the name of the vessel and that type of information.
I'll go with that.
So, y'all need to go ahead and really review this. We'll have it as soon as we may not hear from the state legal department next month. It may take 2 months, but when we do, I'll request for it to be back on the agenda. Y'all be ready to make some decisions on this item.
Table it,
Okay.
get that information.
All right, thank you, Mr. Commissioner Allen. So, okay, so we have a motion to table by Commissioner Allen and a second by Commissioner Mathis on the dock ordinance. Table that until we get some information from the city. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Any opposed? Okay, then the motion carries. Thank you. All right, now we're going to discuss City Hall. And we really need to get ourselves a workshop, I think, on this. We need to get moving on it. Is Miss Molly still here? I gave y'all the presentation that I gave the school board, that was word for word. The Commissioner Kervin on the school board, he questioned me about the paragraph in the agreement that said that the city must provide for uninterrupted and continued use, including provisions of utilities, a portion of the school site by the Boys and Girls Club, and that the city agrees for similar agreements with any entity that's a successor to the Boys and Girls Club. So he questioned me about that after I read that presentation. And my reply to Commissioner Kervin was that the city attorney interprets that paragraph as being the city is obligated to provide space within the building for the after-school program for as long as the city is maintaining and operating this building. Once the building is gone, the obligation is no more. Now that obligation pertains to assigns and assessors. So then the commission questioned Bud Strange, who's the facilities manager there, about what it would cost to rehab the field house. And Mr. Strange said it would cost about $250,000 to rehab the field house. So, I let them know that, the commission is concerned about, the after-school program, but that the city somehow has, we're burdened with this, and we cannot really afford to build a new building that can house the after-school program. And Commissioner Thompson motioned to have the school board attorney communicate with our attorney for interpretation of the agreement, because their interpretations differ. Have y'all had communication?
We have, and we disagree on the exact interpretation. We disagree on the exact interpretation. But it's really, you know, and I've expressed this publicly and for ourselves, is neither here nor there from the standpoint, we have to, you know, unless we're gonna put the money in, which I think we've already decided we are not gonna replace the roof, we're gonna replace the AC system, to maintain a building that's 5 times larger than we need, and all the reasons why we're looking at a new city hall, that subject to engineering and design and you all deciding on location and that sort of thing, we are moving ahead with it. The school board is clear that they need to consider and determine what arrangements that they are going to make for the nest. And we will talk about that with them. I mean, these are the children of Carrabelle, so we are going to try to help and accommodate and do all kinds of things. But maintaining this building simply for the nest is not an option, period. It's not a financial option. You can't do it. So that takes care of itself, and it's, you know, that's that. So we will continue the dialogue back and forth with, you know, the attorneys, but obviously there's going to be more back and forth when you talk to your different superintendent or commissioners and all that, you folks on the board. So, but we've got an immediate problem. And one issue did come up, and I know this has come up in discussions here, I mean, years ago even. But it was something that I think was expressed at the meeting. The attorney also mentioned it. But it was this idea that that we were a little bit ungrateful that we had received this property and now weren't as pleased with, or bottom line, a little ungrateful. And I brought up the point, and I told them that I did not have authority or really any, you know, any ability to do this, but I would bring it up at the next meeting and certainly get some input from my commissioners, which is that, you know, obviously everybody went into this with the best intentions, but the building has simply become more of a financial burden than we can bear. That if, in order to be fair about it, if you want to call it that if the school board wanted to put the money into the building, that we would give it back, potentially. Now, I can't speak for the commission on that, but that is something that just, it came up.
They can have it.
Tell them we received a Trojan horse.
If we son ungrateful, we'll give it back to them.
If that, I mean, just becomes it is, that is another option.
For a small fee.
Yeah, they can have it.
Yeah, they can have, we might.
Not again, just to have all the options on the table.
I'd rather them have it anyway.
Trojan horse.
We give
Well,
them this
it's
Full of problems.
we don't need this.
That's an option, and I've discussed that with staff. It would save us a lot of money not to have to demo the property. And there's folks that don't want the property demoed because they went to school here, you know, they have emotional and historical significance. The demo would be a major cost to the city. And then we wouldn't have to provide temporary offices. If we demo, we'll have to have temporary offices, we'll have to move out, and we'll have to move into the new building, and that will have to happen with the nest as well, and there'll be a big disruption with the after-school program. You know, it would save the school board $250,000 to have to invest in a field house or another location in East Franklin County. And I know for a fact one school board commissioner prefers not to demo. Inovia is going to meet with us, Courtney and I, next week. I want y'all to please talk to Courtney and give your input on what you feel like they're going to talk about: site selection criteria, building programming, and potential construction concepts. So, you know, we can't talk about it together until we have a workshop. If y'all want to schedule a workshop, it's fine with me. Mr. Russell talked about his final, after we talk next week, then he's going to go back with his architect, and then we would have a workshop in November with the architect and the Mr. Inovia. So we do need to move forward on this. And should we direct, since you did talk about with the attorney possible return of the building. Should we direct the attorney to pursue that at this point?
I will certainly extend that.
Consider yourself directed.
Saves a lot of money.
Okay, now, if we do that, we need a location, and we do have Cameron Allen Park where the old water plant is. That would be a location, or we would have to purchase a location, which would still be less expensive than demo and temporary housing and moving and that type of thing. We would not have a location for debris emergency management, debris staging, unless we could use the airport. Oh, there we go. I was afraid the aviation board would be upset with that.
Once we get all that land cleared out, I think we'll have room.
Okay.
Put it in the pond behind it.
DEP didn't hear that.
Yeah.
No, we didn't hear that.
Okay, all right.
That's the way we used to do it.
Then build a house on
Build a school.
Yeah, and that's what they did here.
That's what they did right
That's
here.
why it's in here.
I can show you some garbage dump right in the middle of town.
Okay, all right, so then what are we gonna do here? Let's get a little strategic plan.
I do have some, I've got initial direction. I will follow up with the board attorney, see if they do want the property back. If they don't, then we're right where we are now, which is getting with Inovia and come up with our game plan, and we'll keep them fully informed of what we're doing. So our plan's gonna be, everybody's stays ahead of it. Make it sound simple.
Sure. Okay, all right, and I'll ask you this question later, okay? When I ask you now, but I have a question. And then do we need to schedule a workshop or in October, or do y'all want to wait till October? I mean, this is something that we need to move forward. We've got plenty of people, we need to move forward in this. I'm coughing every time I'm in here, I'll just say that. And we do need to move forward, so.
Can this be brought up at the next school board meeting?
I don't know.
They have them every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, how would it be brought up, or,
I'll talk with the attorney.
okay.
Well, we could
That means that I.
Technically table it now.
Sorry, this item on our agenda? We're just,
Yeah.
we don't need to, we're just discussing it, so.
Just discussion. Yeah.
And if there was a presentation, that means I would have to go back to the school board, which I would do. I would be, I want to.
Of course, I mean, I'll
work this out
call
however
them
we
tomorrow
can.
and talk to them about it.
Okay, all right. So, do we need to table the item, or?
We don't.
Okay, we don't, but we will have it on next month's agenda.
Yep.
And we will schedule, look at your calendars, and we will schedule a workshop in November, and y'all get ready, because we're gonna roll on this thing, I hope. And, so we may have to have workshops in November, December, and January to make some good decisions for the future here. Okay? All right, so may I get a motion to adjourn?
I might wait.
Well, thank you. We have okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Massey, second by Commissioner Walden. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.